A common theme among Democrats today is that anything Donald Trump does, they must oppose, leading to this really weird circumstance where Donald Trump is in favor of stopping violent riots. I'd imagine most people are. And the Democrats are actively supporting violent riots. Now, of course, in the press, they'll say peaceful protester. And the Democrats will say they're simply exercising their First Amendment rights. But that doesn't change the fact that video exists of these ongoing riots. And it doesn't change the fact that the riots have been ongoing for nearly 2 months. Since the end of May, there have been violent riots across this country. Now, of course, they peaked in early June. They've calmed down quite a bit, but they're still ongoing. We had a state of emergency declared in Georgia. We had a state of emergency declared in Utah only in the past couple of weeks. And in Portland, they're on like night 53 of ongoing riots. When Donald Trump deployed federal officers to quell the riots, he got attacked by basically every Democrat. Okay, not every single one, but a lot of them, including Nancy Pelosi, who referred to federal agents as stormtroopers. The media said that he was out of control, and some senators said this was an occupying army. Well, here's the trap. The federal agents then retreated back inside the federal building last night, and what do you get? More videos of violent riots throughout the street and the Democrats' refusal to condemn this. I don't know if it's a trap set by Donald Trump or if it's just good luck. The Democrats are going to oppose literally everything he's doing, even if it makes sense. But now Donald Trump, his administration at least, is suggesting they're going to deploy more federal troops to other cities. In fact, the president of the Chicago Police Union has specifically requested aid from federal authorities. And in Portland, we have some police officials condemning the politicians for basically condoning the ongoing riots. It would seem that the police do want help. Why? It's not just about the violent riots. It's also about a rise in violent crime. Even the New York Times says straight up, it's a weird year. Violent crime is down, but murders are on the rise for whatever reason. So we definitely need help getting a hold on this crime and violent riots. It is a fact that when protesters engage peacefully, when they demonstrate peacefully, it helps their cause. And when they get violent and riots break out, it hurts their cause and it helps the Republicans. So why would the Democrats be in favor of these riots? Maybe their only option is to play the PR game, and getting out in front of this saying they're just peaceful protests is their only option. But the videos exist. I can only imagine that in the next few months, there's going to be a wave of videos showing these violent riots, which just happened last night. A police precinct was set on fire. In Portland, they tried to set the federal building on fire again. And the videos are there. And the police are upset. And what do we get? We hear that Seattle's going to defund their police by 50%. What do they talk about doing? Well, we're going to fire the white officers first. They say that's not a solution to anything. And then we get the media desperately trying to cover for Joe Biden. Even Chris Wallace of Fox News saying Joe Biden doesn't want to defund the police. Yes, he does. He said it. What does defund the police mean? Literally, it means reallocating funding, taking funding away from police. Meanwhile, local activists in New York are straight up saying, no, we need our police back. Crime is on the rise. So as all of these Democrats call or support, at least, the protesters' calls for defunding the police, it's no surprise now that we're hearing that cops are asking for Trump's help. And that's the main story. Trump official says federal troops may be deployed to other Democrat-run cities this week. It seems like we get one of two extremes. Right now, you have people decrying the deployment of the Gestapo, of Trump's secret police snatching people up off the streets. And you have others on the Trump side saying, deploy more troops. The cops are asking for help. I'm not going to tell you which one is the right one. I'm just going to show you what's happening. But I can say, in my opinion, regular people, they don't like violent riots. And that's why people are buying guns in record numbers. And it's why they're moving out of cities. You know, that and COVID. But I'm pretty sure people are going to be happy that law enforcement is coming on the scene. And I'm going to make a bet that Donald Trump is right on this one. Deploying federal law enforcement officers is going to work out well for him. Let's read the story. But before we do, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's many ways you can give, but the best thing you can do is subscribe. Many of you who watch my videos aren't actually subscribed. I can see this in the analytics, like half. If you really do want my videos to pop up and you want to see them when they're available, please subscribe to this channel and hit that like button. Let's read the news. The Independent reports A White House official said that the Trump administration is planning to send federal troops into several Democrat-run cities, mirroring the recent controversial deployment in Portland. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows suggested more federal incursions were on the way during an interview Sunday on Fox News. You'll see something rolled out this week as we start to go in and make sure that the communities, whether it's Chicago or Portland or Milwaukee or someplace across the heartland, we need to make sure their communities are safe. Chicago, Portland, and Milwaukee are all run by Democrats. So he didn't actually say Democrat-run cities, but to be fair, in an interview with Chris Walls on Fox News, Trump said it's all the Democrat cities. So yeah, they're going to do it. But come on, big cities are run by Democrats for whatever reason. Not every single one. You know, San Diego, I believe, is run by a Republican. And I don't think they're having serious problems. I mean, not that I can tell, or not that it's in the news. Let's read a little bit more. Donald Trump was less subtle about his intentions during his own interview Sunday on Fox News. Mr. Trump said that he was sending government troops in to stop the violence in Democrat-run cities. Federal troops have already been deployed in Portland, where they've been skirmishing with protesters in increasingly violent incidents. A video widely shared over the weekend showed a largely unidentified federal officer whisking a man who appeared to be a protester off the streets and into an unmarked van filled with other federal officers. In another video, a federal officer attacks a peaceful protester with a baton. If they're referring to that man who's standing amid tear gas and fires, can we drop the pretense? Peaceful protester. It's going to be a trademark for the Democrats. That's the narrative they're going with. Why? I think they have no choice. Now, Donald Trump's they've requested that he pull his federal agents, the DHS officers, out of Portland, and he's refusing, in fact, suggesting or literally sending more officers in, claiming Oregon's leaders were scared crazy as he threatens to do something in Chicago and New York. And it seems like that's absolutely the case. But let me tell you why. It's not just about riots. The New York Times upshot says, as of July 13th, this has been updated, it's been such a weird year. That's also reflected in crime statistics. In large cities across America, murders are up sharply, while other violent crimes have decreased. This is the issue we're facing. Violent crimes may be down, petty crimes may be down, but for some reason, shootings and murder has gone way up. If they're going to defund the police, and it's literally what they're doing in Seattle, in Portland, in Minneapolis, then what do you think's going to happen? People will become emboldened to go out. But more importantly, one of the reasons I think we may be seeing an uptick in murders potentially has to do with conflicts and rage and pent-up anger over COVID, but also because of the riots. When police are spread too thin, then opportunists take advantage. That's probably why we saw so much looting early in June. People knew that the violent riots pertaining to George Floyd gave them an opportunity to go and do whatever they want because the police were without resources, to say the least. But there is, at least in some cities, there are people asking for help from the feds. As much as Democrats don't want to admit it, so long as they keep targeting the police are probably going to ask for help. We have this story from the Chicago Tribune. Homeland Security making plans to deploy some 150 agents in Chicago this week with scope of duty unknown. Now, this is a whole other ball game, man. I'll tell you what. As most of you know, I'm from Chicago. Chicago's got very serious gun crime issues, and I'm surprised the feds haven't been deployed sooner to do something about what they call Chirac. There are so many gun deaths in this city. People call it Chirac. Yeah, because it's worse than Iraq, worse than a war zone. The Tribune reports the U.S. Department of Homeland Security is crafting plans to deploy about 150 agents to Chicago this week. The Chicago Tribune has learned a move that would come amid growing controversy nationally about federal force being used in American cities. The Homeland Security Investigations, or HSI agents, are set to assist other federal law enforcement and Chicago police in crime-fighting efforts, according to sources familiar with the matter, though a specific plan on what the agents will be doing had not been made public. One city official said the city was aware of the plan, but not any specifics. The Chicago Police Department had no immediate comment. But this may have something to do with Chicago's largest police union making the request. They say that a letter had been sent to Trump asking for help from the federal government in putting a lid on crime in the city. Quote, I am certain you are aware of the chaos currently affecting our city on a regular basis now. John Catanzara, president of the Fraternal Order of Police Lodge 7, wrote in a letter that was posted on the FOP's Facebook page. I am writing to formally ask you for help from the federal government. Mayor Lightfoot has proved to be a complete failure who is either unwilling or unable to maintain law and order here. They say so far in 2020, Chicago has experienced one of its most violent years in recent memory, especially since late May, with the fallout over the death of George Floyd at the hands of police in Minnesota. Through July 12th, homicides in Chicago were up 48%. Shootings were up by 46%. During a 28-day period through July 12th, 116 people were slain in Chicago. That's up from 41 during the same period in 2019. And what do you think the government of Chicago, the Democratic politicians, had to say about this? Thank you, Donald Trump, for coming to help quell the violence. Thank you, Donald Trump, for assisting our local police officers who are in need of aid to stop the violence. No. Opponents blast police union president's request that Trump send federal troops into Chicago. More than a dozen Chicago elected officials are pushing back against the police union's president's request to Trump for federal intervention to fight the violence. They mention that the letter was sent. They mention that on Friday night, police clashed with protesters near the Christopher Columbus statue in Grant Park. These riots are everywhere, man. And the cops are saying, we need help. What do the local politicians want? You know what, man? I said it before, that if the people of these cities keep electing these politicians, then why should any of us outside of these cities care? Now, some people have mentioned that there are good people in these cities who need help and don't agree with the lunatics who would let these violent riots run rampant. Well, then the people of the city who aren't paying attention need to start paying attention. And those who would be upset by this need to speak up. Many of them are. But we still have a big challenge in that if the feds keep bailing out these Democrat-run cities when violence erupts, well, then they'll never start voting for real reform and real change. They'll keep supporting all of this insanity. But I think Donald Trump may have actually roped them into some kind of trap. You see, Trump didn't need to actually go in with an iron fist and crush the violence. He needed only try. And now that we're seeing over and over again, Democrats literally saying no to policing, what would anyone expect from them? Do you think voting for them will help you? No. Donald Trump has now cleared his conscience. He says, look, we were willing and able. We sent in the federal agents and the Democrats got mad. So then what? When they tell you that Joe Biden wants to defund the police, when Trump himself says it, and they go, that's not true. No, he doesn't. All they're doing is making themselves look stupid. Because every single time something in the past month has come up, the Democrats have backed down. Don't believe me? Let me show you. They've literally done it. From the Portland Police Bureau. Portland police do not engage crowds during the night. On Sunday, July 20th, 2020, people gathered in front of the Mark O. Hatfield Federal Courthouse in downtown Portland. Hundreds of people stood blocking Southwest 3rd Avenue, while dozens of others tampered with the fence around the courthouse. At about 9:40 p.m., people in the crowd breached the fence enough to allow access to the area fenced off. The crowd chanted and pulled at the fence for about 90 minutes. At about 11:20 p.m., federal law enforcement came out of the courthouse for a few minutes and attempted to repair the fence, then went back inside. Long story short, local law enforcement were not present, they say. Portland police were not present during any of the activity described. Portland police did not engage with any crowds and did not deploy any CS gas. And there it is. The Democrats have repeatedly slammed federal law enforcement, Trump's occupying army, and local law enforcement is being curtailed. They're telling you they will straight up defund the police. Seattle Mayor slams 50% defunding of police and announces $76 million budget cut in 2021. When they tell you the Democrats want to take your cops away, they literally mean it. They're doing it in Seattle. They disbanded the police in Minneapolis. And now in Portland, the police are standing down. And when Trump comes in, what do they say? Help, help, I'm being repressed. But these videos will persist and the people will see it. The Democrats are actively supporting the violence, and I cannot tell you why. I can tell you their priorities, though. Apparently, they want to fire the white cops. That's it. Well, we're going to defund the police. We've got to get rid of some people. So how about, they say, how about we don't fire the black, indigenous people of color? That's what they've said. They didn't. This woman didn't specific. Is a council member, and the council members have voted to defund the police. She didn't specifically come out and say fire all the white cops. She did, however, say when we start cutting the budget and have to fire people, we don't have to fire the people of color. That's how they framed it. So what can we expect? A media that will claim Trump is out of control while they'll simultaneously demand that Portland police not engage. So should there be no police during riots? Apparently, that's what the Democrats actually want. I wish I were exaggerating, but I'm not. I want to say, like I've said several times, it's a trap. Trump has tricked the Democrats into supporting this insane position. I think they actually support it. Or the media and the Democrats just think they're supporting each other. I honestly have no idea. But if you think regular Americans are going to be happy with this, you've got another thing coming, man. Look at this from Portland. Portland politicians condoned destruction of city, police union boss says, from Fox News. Daryl Turner, the head of the Portland Police Association, said Sunday that city politicians have not acted in the best interest of the city after weeks of violent protests and instead prioritized their own political agenda as the city burned. The elected officials have condoned the destruction and chaos, Turner, who is black, said, according to Oregon Live. They have placed their political agenda ahead of safety and welfare of the community. This must stop. The paper reported that Sunday night marked the 53rd consecutive night of protests as city leaders, including Mayor Ted Wheeler, continued to lock horns with Trump for sending federal agents into the city. Trump told Fox News Sunday that the city is being overrun by anarchists, and if the country doesn't make a stand, we're going to lose Portland. Wheeler told NPR on Sunday that Trump's move in Portland is a last gasp effort by a failed president with sagging polling data, who's trying to look strong for his base. He's actually using the federal police function in support of his candidacy. Man, I think these people have lost the plot. I think they are so out of touch. Maybe it'll work. I honestly don't know. Maybe people really don't get it. But here's Nancy Pelosi, unidentified stormtroopers, unmarked cars, kidnapping protesters, and causing severe injuries in response to graffiti. Graffiti? Like they were throwing mortar shell firebombs. They were smashing out windows. In Seattle, one officer has been hospitalized for getting mortar shell fragments in his throat and neck. That's graffiti? She says DHS Gov's actions in Portland undermine its mission. Trump and his stormtroopers must be stopped. She goes on to say First Amendment speech should never be met with one-sided violence from federal agents acting as Trump's secret police, especially when unidentified. This is disgraceful behavior we would expect from a banana republic, not the government of the United States. Well, I'll tell you what. Some people will buy it. Some people will absolutely believe that those officers were unidentified. Well, they were actually wearing police badge patches, and they had DHS patches, I believe, as well. I saw a funny post that argued, what if someone saw those unidentified undercover cops and then shot them in fear? Let me tell you, if you see a vehicle pull up and dudes jump out wearing full tactical gear that says DHS and police on them, I don't know why you would assume they're not cops. That seemingly makes no sense. But the big narrative is that the Democrats don't want to take your police away when we're literally watching it. The Portland Police Association said straight up, the politicians are condoning this. The Portland Police Bureau straight up said, we were not out there. So who's out there to do anything about these riots? Nobody. So when they tell you the Democrats want to take your police away, they mean it. The New York Times ran the op-ed. Yes, we mean abolish the police. I can't tell you, man. Why Chris Wallace would defend this insanity. Maybe he just doesn't know. And that's the problem with news today. You see, defund the police. That was the first message. What did it mean? It literally meant take away all their money. But then when Democrats realized it looked bad, they backpedaled. No, we don't want to do that. And then they said defund. No, defund actually means just take some funding away, because they're militarized. No, that makes sense. Then they said Joe Biden doesn't even want to do that. Yes, Joe Biden said he wants to defund the police from town hall. But let me give you a better example of what's going on. This is my tweet. I said a story in 3 parts, explaining why no one has any idea what the F is actually happening in this country. Because here's the story from the Daily Mail. They said, let's go. Donald Trump furiously orders aides to provide proof to Fox News that Joe Biden wants to defund the police and his staff can't provide any. Then we have the next story. Biden orally committed last week to steering funds away from police An interviewer asked, but do we agree that we can redirect some of the funding? And Biden said, yes, absolutely. And then finally, from Brookings, defund the police means reallocating or redirecting funding away from the police department to other agencies funded by the local municipality. Well, so there you go, man. When Portland leaders come out begging for an end of the violence, when activists in New York City yell, refund the police, bring their money back, and local community activists say, we need our police, you can tell right now the Democrats have no idea what's truly happening in this country. Now, I can't tell you why the polls are wrong. There was a really funny polling metric that came out that said Joe Biden does better on the phone than he does online. And that falls in line with what people have been saying, that when they get called by pollsters, they lie. And thus, Biden, it seems like he's doing well. I'll tell you what, man. I do not believe that you will find anyone who's going to be in the middle of a riot in their community saying this is a good thing. Take a look at what happened at the Chaz. You had a dozen plus or so businesses file a lawsuit against the city. They were not happy with the autonomous zone. Local businesses were complaining that their rights were being suppressed. They couldn't operate. They couldn't get in or out of their buildings. These people were allowed at all hours of the night. People who lived there were complaining. These people are probably now going to vote for Trump. You know why? Because in Seattle, they set fire to a police precinct the other day. They threw mortar shell explosives at cops. In Portland, they did the same thing. These videos don't go away. While some people perhaps in the suburbs aren't paying attention, I wonder, maybe the Democrats might lose portions of cities. I think that would be crazy. And I think it's fair to point out a lot of people still just believe whatever it is Democrats say. But those who have been watching the videos, who have been watching and sharing videos like this, know full well exactly what's happening. When the helicopters are flying above your house and the sirens are near your house, it'll be too late. During the outbreak of riots last month, I heard it. I've said it several times, and it's a scary feeling. So how do you explain the people fleeing the cities, buying guns? I think regular people are speaking up because they know. They say, passive community leaders, activists spoke outside PPA office. End the violence, let's talk. About 15 hours after rioters broke into the building that houses the Portland Police Association and set it on fire, a passel of community leaders and activists begged for an end to the violence that has gripped the city for nearly 2 months. Pastor Matt Hennessy of the Vancouver Avenue First Baptist Church began by, quote, begging you to put down your need for violence and meet us so we can move forward. PPA President Daryl Turner gathered leaders and community activists that included Sam Sachs from the No Hate Zone, a state representative and former police officer, and Will Aitchison, who is a lawyer for the PPA, but described himself as a longtime protester. They all provided different reasons for being there, but they all agreed on one thing: the violence has to stop. Now, I'll make this point very clear for you. They're coming out and begging people to stop. The federal law enforcement officers aren't showing up at Antifa's house. The far left is showing up to the courthouse and besieging it, and then the officers come out. In order for this violence to stop, one thing need happen. The far left need stay home. That's it. So whose fault is it? Not the police. So when community leaders are begging for this, but the Democrats blame police and pull the police back, dare I say, they have walked into the trap. I don't know if Trump did it on purpose, but man, does it work out for him. They say a broken clock is right twice a day. The Democrats are right less than that. Why? Because when Donald Trump, when he does something, it must be wrong. And if Trump tends to be correct, then the Democrats will tend to be wrong. But Trump is wrong, not at least not twice a day, right? The Democrats are just wrong almost every step of the way. What does this mean? These activists, they're the voters. They're the ones who are going to come out and say the far left won't be stopped, and the Democratic politicians have supported them for far too long. Perhaps we will see the biggest swing to the Republican Party than we've ever seen in a really long time, in decades. Or maybe not. I could be wrong. Personally, I feel like regular people don't like rioting. But the Democrats and the media have put out this narrative that it's peaceful protests. Maybe that'll work in the suburbs. Maybe as long as the riots stay out of the suburbs, these people will keep believing it. I guess we'll find out. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastNews, and I will see you all then.